Hello, welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Nancy Drew, The Haunted Carousel. Chapter 10, The Iris Riddle. Nancy was surprised by the furious way Joy's aunt responded to her remarks, so she did not pursue the matter, even though she was still curious about the visitor's identity and why she had come to call on the Trents. Luckily, the awkward silence that followed was soon broken as Joy's car was heard pulling into the drive. The red-haired teenager came bursting eagerly into the house, having seen Nancy's blue sports car parked outside. "I am so sorry to have kept you waiting, Nancy," she apologized breathlessly. "I expect to be back long before you arrive, but I got a flat tire on my way home." "It doesn't matter a bit, Joy," Nancy smiled. I've only been here a few minutes." "You met my Aunt Selma?" "Well, yes, though I didn't catch her name." "Mrs. Yawley," said Joy, performing a better introduction. "Aunt Selma, this is Nancy Drew, the famous girl detective. I'm hoping she can help me figure out Daddy's last message." The woman inclined her head and shook hands coldly. "I'm not sure it's wise to discuss family affairs with outsiders," she murmured with an air of disapproval. "I trust you know what you're doing, Joy." Without either giving her niece or Nancy time to respond, Mrs. Yawley turned and left the room. Joy sighed but managed to grin at Nancy. "Don't mind Aunt Selma. She's nicer than she seems. The only trouble is she treats me like a little backward child who can hardly be trusted to cross the street by herself." Nancy wondered if this meant Mrs. Yawley was Joy's guardian, but she refrained from asking. Instead, she changed the subject and brought up last night's break-in. Joy related that the burglars had evidently entered through a basement window, but had stumbled in the dark while coming upstairs. The noise had wakened the butler, who slept on the ground floor. When he went to investigate, he said he was overpowered by two men in ski masks. One clamped a hand over the butler's mouth to prevent any outcry while he was being tied and gagged. After that, he could hear them moving around in different parts of the house, Joy went on. "But the police got here about 10 seconds later. I guess the robbers must have heard the scout car pulling up beside the window. Anyway, they got away with being seen or caught." "Do you know what was stolen?" Nancy asked. "Nothing. That's the funny part of it." "You're quite sure?" "Oh, yes. Aunt Selma checked over every room." That is odd." Nancy frowned slightly. "Was anything out of place? Or was there any sign of ransacking? I mean, like drawers or cabinets being open?" Joy shook her head. "Not that any of us noticed. Why?" "I just wonder if they might have been searching for valuables. You know, like taking inventory first, deciding what to steal. But they got interrupted by the police before they could scoop up the loot." "Oh, yes, I see what you mean. But there was no sign of that. In fact, there were valuables in plain sight, like the silver candlesticks on the mantel, that they didn't even bother with." "Have you had any contact with the police?" Joy shrugged. "Not really. I just assumed they were patrolling the neighborhood and no one noticed anything suspicious." "No, they responded to a phone tip," Nancy said. I have that from the police chief." Joy was surprised by the information and looked thoughtful. "You know, Nancy, this may not be important, but I have a hunch I was following home yesterday after I met you at the park." "You mean another car was following yours?" "Yes, I kept seeing it in my rear view mirror, even though I made several turns." "Did you notice the license number?" "No, I didn't think of that," Joy said regretfully. "It was a dark blue car, and there was a man at the wheel. He zoomed on past after I turned on our drive, so I never got a good look at him." Joy Trent had been showing Nancy around the house while she told her about the break-in, but now the two girls settled themselves on a sofa in the sitting room to chat and got a better acquaintance. Joy revealed that she was an only child and an orphan, as Nancy had guessed. Her father, John Trent, who sounded like a hard-driving business executive with little time to spare, had died several months ago. Yet, despite his busy schedule, he had evidently been devoted to his daughter and had vanished a good deal of attention on her. Joy could not even remember her mother, who had died when Joy was a mere toddler, but the little girl had enjoyed a fond, close relationship with her father. Otherwise, she had been brought up by a succession of housekeeper and governesses until recently, when Mr. Trent's sister, Joy's Aunt Selma, became widowed and moved in with them. Nancy was still intrigued by the identity of the mystery woman who she had seen at the park talking to Leo Novak and then driving away from the Trent's house this morning. Could Nancy's own visit to the park have something to do with all this? Nancy wondered. Or Joy's own visit to the park have had something to do with this, Nancy wondered. In view of Aunt Selma's harsh attitude toward the woman, she decided it might be better to probe for the information in a roundabout fashion rather than ask a blunt question. By the way, Nancy remarked, I'm sorry I didn't respond when you waved at me at the park the other day. I'm surprised you even noticed me, Joy grinned. You seemed in quite a hurry. That's one way of putting it, Nancy said with a chuckle. Actually, I was chasing a crook. She told the other girl about her adventure with the pickpockets and then asked casually, Do you often go to the amusement park? Not really, though I did when I was little. A reminiscent smile came over Joy's face as she went on. I love to ride the carousel. Daddy told me that took me there whenever he could. In fact, he even bought my favorite steed on the merry-go-round. Really? Nancy was startled. Her sleuthing antenna instantly shot up. How'd that happen? Well, one time the carousel moved away from River Heights. Yes, I know. There was one particular horse on that I used to ride, Joy explained. It was the lead horse, the most beautiful creature you ever saw. When I found out the merry-go-round was about to be taken away, I was broken-hearted. So Daddy made a deal to buy the horse from the carousel owner and wrote him out a check then and there. Nancy's blue eyes twinkled. You must have been a very pleased little girl. Joy laughed merrily. Oh, you've no idea. It happened that next day was my birthday. Daddy ordered a van and picked up the horse in time for my birthday, and my birthday celebration started right at the park. It was quite an occasion. I can imagine. So this, Nancy reflected, was why the lead horse had to be replaced. Why hadn't Leo Novak told her a different story? Aloud, she asked, Do you still have the horse? Oh, yes, I'm too fond of it to ever give it away, though right now it's at the River Heights Daycare Center. I lent it so the children who stay there while their parents are working on can have the fun of riding it. Joy told Nancy that before her father became head of his own machine tool company, it started out as a lathe hand at a machine shop and was an expert handyman machinist. He mounted my horse on a special hobby horse stand that he made himself so it would jock up and down when he rode it. The stand even has a music box inside that winds up and plays when the horse gallops. Sounds wonderful, Nancy said, dimpling. I'd love to see it. I'll take you to the daycare center sometime and show you, Nancy promised. Anyhow, it wasn't until I heard about the Haunted Carousel on TV that I realized the Wonderland Gallop was back in Riverside Park. So naturally I had to go see it again. And then, of course, I read in the paper how you had agreed to try and solve the mystery, which is what gave me the idea of asking you to solve one for me. You've got me terribly curious, said Nancy. Tell me your mystery. Maybe a riddle would be a better word for it, Joy began slowly. Before she could go any farther, the butler announced lunch. So Joy continued her story at the table. Just before my father died, she related with a slight catch in her voice, he told me he left something for me in the lower right-hand drawer of his desk in his study. This is what I found. She handed Nancy an envelope addressed to my darling daughter, Joy. Open it. Nancy did so. Inside there was a slip of paper bearing an odd message. Iris equals ? Old Glory. How strange, Nancy murmured. Do you have any clue as to what this all may mean? As Joy nodded in response, Nancy saw her eyes mist over. Iris was my mother's name. Nancy hesitated a moment. Do you have any recollection of her? None at all, said Joy sadly. I don't even know what she looked like. Daddy didn't even have a snapshot to remember her by. Niels regretted it. Mrs. Yawley, who was lunching with them, had been glowering at the two girls ever since they began their conversation. Now she uttered an audible sniff of disapproval. Is it really necessary to discuss all this with a stranger, Joy? The teenage redhead gave her calmly defiant look. I invited Nancy here to help find out what Daddy's letter means, Aunt Selma. I can hardly expect her to do that, can I, without her knowing a few facts about my family. The thin-lipped woman sniffed again and frowned irately, but she remained silent for the rest of the meal. Joy told Nancy that her parents had been young and poor when they got married. Her mother, unhappily, had not lived long enough to enjoy John Trent's success. Partly because he had no picture of his wife, Mr. Trent had surrounded himself with irises in various forms. For instance, if you'll notice, Joy went on, this room has iris pattern wallpaper. After lunch, I'll show you some examples. When they arose from the table, she led Nancy through several rooms, ending up in her father's study. In every room, there was at least one bowl or vase filled with irises. There were also ceramic and governed in glass likenesses of the flower, with paintings of irises, iris-decorated drapes, and numerous other such objects or furnishings. Your father must have cherished your mother's memory a great deal, Nancy murmured. Yes, Joy nodded and was silent for a moment, then went on. Because of his grief, Daddy could never bear to talk about her much, so I really know very little about her. I suspect one of the examples of the iris motif might hold the answer to that cryptic message he left you, Nancy mused out loud. But for the moment, she was at loss to unravel the puzzle, even though privately she had a feeling at the back of her mind that she had already sighted a clue somewhere in the house. So she asked Joy for time to think it over what she had just learned, and promised to resume their conversation later. After leaving the Trent's house, Nancy returned to the amusement park. She wanted to ask Leo Novak why he had told her the lead horse was a replacement of Breakage, but actually the original had been sold to Joy's Trent's father. That was way back when the Trent girl was just a little kid, he reported impatiently. It happened when old Mr. Ogden owned the carousel and the trailer. If you don't believe me, her dad had a photograph taken at the time and gave Ogden a copy. It's still stuck up on the wall of the trailer. I thought you wanted to know about the last time the lead horse was replaced. The truck accident I told you about happened when I took over the carousel. I see, said Nancy politely. Well, thank you for explaining that to me, Mr. Novak. Her next call was to the owner of the boat that had been stolen on the night she and Ned kept watch on the carousel. The owner, a gas station operator named Vic Marsh, told her he had been fishing on the river that night, just below the park, when suddenly he saw the carousel light up and start playing music. Startled me out of my wits, Marsh added with a chuckle. So I went to shore and climbed up the hillside to see what was going on. Later, when I came down again, I saw those two guys making off my boat. It was too dark to see what they looked like, but I yelled and went after them. It was 2 against 1, so I got roughed up a bit. They knocked me down and shoved me off before I could stop them. Nancy's eyes widened as the thought struck her. The boat thieves could have been the 2 dark figures whom she and Ned had seen examining the carousel. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.